Hello, I'm Chris Solo, and welcome to the Fabled 42, where we build community through friendship, gaming, and chaos. You are watching Quests and Answers. You can catch us live every Monday at 3:30 p.m. Pacific here at twitch.tv/Fabled42. But before we get into today's episode, we're going to dive into some announcements, and then we'll do some panelist introductions. Some of the same amazing faces that have graced us in some of the previous episodes, but we'll get to that soon. So, everything you see that's 3D printed in all of our streams is brought to you by Griffin Co. So go ahead and give those guys a check. If you're into playing remotely like most of us are, check out our friends over at Vorpal Board, which gives you the ability to play a game off your shelf using tabletop streaming and component scanning technology. So go ahead and check out Vorpal Board. Also, check out our Patreon. Why do you want to check out our Patreon, do you ask? Well, we have lots and lots of really exciting content that is coming up soon. We have some really exciting community games that are open to our Patreon subscribers, which I don't even know about. Did I get any of those games? I need to go check.
You did. You got in one.
Yes. Where you're able to play with other Patreon subscribers and some cast and crew of Fabled 42. So you can go ahead and check out our Patreon to do some of that. We have some other exciting things. I am in the process of editing the prom episode. Which is lots and lots of rendering, which opens up time for video games. That's fun for me. But there's lots of rendering, lots of really amazing role play. So we're doing a watch party on February 21st at noon, I think. It might start sooner depending on how long it is. Right now, I'm guessing it's going to be 9 hours. So we're going to have three-hour parts, and it's going to be a giant watch party for our Patreon. So we're going to invite all of you amazing Patreon subscribers to the Zoom call where all of the players, or most of the players and cast and crew of Fable 42 will be hanging out. You won't be able to verbally talk to us, but we'll see all of your beautiful faces. But we'll be chatting with you in the chat, and we're going to watch the different segments. We do some giveaways.
Come for the dancing, stay for the drama.
Yes.
So
which
much
ties
drama.
into today's thing, which is story arcs.
Story arcs.
I was gonna heckle Ronan again about segues, and then my brain stopped working, and then I didn't remember what we were talking about today. So that's
And
my
now
default.
we're laughing at you.
Yeah, he has
Yeah.
cast Hex on you, son.
He did. But he cast a hex on me before he got feeble-minded and walked off the
Into the
battle.
void. Yeah.
So there's a lot of other exciting things that are happening. Oh, I just remembered I need to do the menu. So there is another game on Sunday. We have there's always so much to do.
Always something.
It's always something to do. We need your help. And because we need your help, we're doing another 6-hour stream, a 3-part gladiatorial tournament with a lot of our Fabled family that will be playing. You all the Patreon subscribers helped create the characters that they made. So they're going to be playing level 12 characters, and you're going to be able to put them through the ringer. So we'll have monster drops and some other items to either help or hinder their experience. The best part is all of these characters that you all helped make are canon in Ukador. They will be taking place in late first age, early second age. This is my big gladiatorial event that we found out in our last episode of Quests and Answers with the calendar events. My 13th month of Azir is the month for games. So you're not supposed to be fighting. Like wars and battles are kind of paused, and everyone tends to honor this treaty, depending on who you are. But that's enough about all that. We'll get into some of those story beats and story arcs and things here in a bit. But let's do some panelist introductions. First and foremost, Dianne.
Hi, my name's Dianne. You can find me on the internet under the Pretty DM, Instagram, sometimes Twitter. You can find me here almost every day.
All the time.
Mondays, I DM my homebrew world, Legends of Shao. Wednesdays, I am the lovable Southern Fearbulk Kiwin, and hopefully I'll be on the next episode.
You almost died.
And Fridays, I'll be on this Friday for the Moonlander graduation, and Saturdays for Vault 42. And every other day they allow me to come on.
And every other Saturday for Monster of the Week too.
Oh my God! Yes.
Yes, is that this Saturday?
No, it's in February.
It's not next.
It's
Okay.
in February. Yeah, you're like, oh no.
There's
no.
a lot of moving parts.
I'll be doing nothing but playing WoW now that Solo got me playing WoW.
You're
It's
all
hurtful.
welcome.
It's hurtful.
You're all welcome.
I hate you
'Cause
all.
I don't
okay,
like
that's my.
playing. Well, I
that's
actually
my
do like playing
introduction.
alone, but I like playing with other people too. So like, Taryn's like, let's get solo, and then all of a sudden 7 people join.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right,
It's
Hey,
almost
Jason, you
like
play
I knew
World of Warcraft?
exactly who to get involved.
don't do it.
Weird.
Anyways, that's my introduction,
Yes.
y'all. You know me.
The reason why the menu was not done for the charity event on Sunday is because
Not my fault.
I was streaming World of Warcraft.
I have not
Taryn,
played.
welcome.
Hi. My name is Taryn Hackett. You can catch me at Valrook on Instagram and in World of Warcraft, actually. It's actually where the name came from, in case
My
you were
World
wondering.
of Warcraft is the pretty DM too, so that's just where you find me.
Yeah, it's just a thing. Instagram's the only social media I really care about right now because I can post pictures of my dice that I am currently working on and making.
And they're beautiful.
So
You're
pretty.
amazing.
And my fuzzy cat Stella. There's lots of pictures of her, and sometimes I take pictures of my orange hair. But that's where you find stuff, and eventually you'll be able to buy dice from me because I like them.
Amazing.
You can catch me here on Mondays doing Q&A things sometimes, and also on Legends of Shah Ogal as an amazing thigh-happy shifter monk.
I'm happy?
Thigh.
No, yeah, happy
what
though.
that
You're
means.
you're
Speaking
Oh,
of
she's
dice.
so not happy. She's miserable. But I mean, she's happy. And then of course, Wizards of Upador. I play the emo edgelord Rook. You should check that out. I am also not ready for graduation
2
this
weeks.
week, even though I'm not in it, and
The
I am
finale is
terrified.
in 2 weeks. Oh my god.
I'm not ready, so not ready for any
Nope.
of it.
No one's ready.
I will be participating in the gladiatorial thing as the not edgy druid, per request of Patreon subscribers. And yeah, I think that's
excited for
everything.
my.
And speaking of dice, Mr. Jason.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Jason Russell from Critical Dice. You can find me on Instagram at Critical Dice. And speaking of finding people places they shouldn't be, you can also now find me on TikTok because bad choices were made. And
Wow.
find some work content there. Yeah, I'm just an
TikTok,
old man.
Jason?
I know.
His TikToks are actually good though. Like I was surprised. Sorry, I
So
was very
you
surprised.
watched TikTok?
Yes,
Wow.
I don't know what's the more revealing
You have a
piece of
TikTok too?
information.
I have a Fable TikTok that I've done 2 videos and then I stopped because it hurt. But when Jason said he did it, I watched this thing. I'm like, oh, this is actually really good.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So the problem is that I was like, I'll try this out, and then people liked it. Now I can't not do it. So
I mean, you
like,
can't.
a lot of people liked it.
Just like we can stop playing World of Warcraft, you can stop doing
Yeah,
TikTok.
anytime. Yeah, but you can
That's
find me here on the channel for a lot of different things. So playing Leo on for House Frostguard for Wizards, and then also being the keeper of monsters and mysteries for the Duke City Chronicles, which is now going to be every other Saturday mornings at 9 Pacific time a.m. And then just a bunch of other random things. I'll be playing in the stream on Sunday, playing also totally not edgy wizard, druid named Zim Barazin.
You are welcome for that, by the way.
Oh yeah, okay, cool. I've been enjoying looking at it. He might be a pyromaniac. It might be a thing.
Nice.
But you can also find me on my website, thecriticaldice.com. And Solo told me to show this. I just got this today. So our Kickstarter back in October, the finals are here and they're starting to ship out like right away. Genesis box, Volume 1, Volume 2, booster packs for the NPCs, and then my favorite, to be perfectly honest, the booster packs, the theme booster packs, which feels like I'm like working for Willy Wonka, because they just like I want to open them up and then eat them. So
Is there a golden
I just
ticket?
got those.
That's
So
the question.
go to the Kickstarter page. You can find ways to order those now after we start filling all those orders. But yeah, excited about that. But yeah, I think that's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining. You're some of my favorite storytellers in general, and then on the network. Wish we could have more people, but we'll have more story arc stuff to talk about, more story things here. So let's start from the top. When you're creating your stories, whether it's for a one-shot, whether it's for a campaign, whether you're using a deck, or how do you start? Like, do you start with like an idea? Do you come up with like the big bad and then dial back from that to create the story? Is there a dynamic with your players that you really want to show and unfold, and then go from there? How do you guys start creating your stories?
Dianne.
I was thinking the same thing. Go ahead, Diane.
Oh, okay.
Under the bus.
Wow. I actually had an answer. I was just gonna let someone else speak first because I feel like the last time I spoke first every time.
That was also
Anyways.
Who's that driving the bus? It's Jason and Taryn. They're driving over Diane.
So I either have an idea and I just build out from that, or I have a location. I base it a lot off of like locations when it's a one shot, and then I'll build like around that location. And if it's for campaign, it's usually an event that's happening in the world and a big bad, and then I kind of weave in the characters' storylines to make sure it fits with that a little bit at least, and go from there.
Well, for me, it kind of begins a couple of different ways. Main storylines, like, because I like the hero's tale, like, I like the journey, right? So I have, like, there are things that make me come up with big story arcs, and usually that's, like, I base it, again, like Dianne said, like, my players give me their backgrounds a little bit, like, the setting that I'm in, and that's where I tend to start is, like, okay, I know this is probably my big bad person. Here's some backgrounds. How can I weave this whole overarching thing together to make a big, pretty picture? Now, like, all of those little arcs building into the big one, it happens a bunch of different ways. It's really funny. So when I, actually, like, a year ago or more, I hit, like, a brain freeze, and there was somebody on Instagram and stuff that apparently posted prompts for D&D games, and I had no idea who that was until I joined Fable, and I was like, oh my god, it's him. Like, that is, like, but, yeah, for real, though. It was really cool, coincidence. I just had to throw that out there, because, like, I figured that out, and I was like, oh, he saved me, like, a year ago.
Thank you, that's so nice.
But, the other thing I do is, like, because I'm a total nerd, too, is I'll hop on, like, sites like Pinterest and things and look up, like, character or monster art. And doing that, I come across some big, beautiful beasties that give me ideas, and I'm like, I want people to look at this guy. He's got 7 eyes and a cowboy hat. I'm here.
That's
so
kind
then
of how I do with locations.
Yeah, and so I'll look at pictures and go, okay, what is a good background? Like, what kind of person is this, or what kind of monster is this? How can I weave it in? And then, like, knowing my players and what they like.
I like it.
Yeah, a lot of my stuff starts with a single, like, sentence or two, unsurprisingly, because the game hooks, that's how I think.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always have to be these big generalizations. Like, if it's going to be a long campaign, I absolutely start with the villain. I start with the BBEG, and I work my way back. Like, you know, I'm trying to think of a good one. You know, this cloud giant wants to reorder the ordning and needs only one thing left to do it. Like, that'll be the thesis statement, and everything flows from there, even though he's not going to do that until 12 sessions in, right? But for smaller stuff, it still comes down to, I think, just like a single concept or a single sentence. Like, so the Monster of the Week game we did, the very first episode, it started from the phrase, "You see John Wayne emerge from the darkness, and this one has a gun." Like, that's the phrase. I was like, as long as I can say that in this game, I'm a happy man. But it really just comes from a single concept, right? So, like, the second episode, and this is because it's fresh in my mind, we did La Llorona, and I was just like, well, I want to show off like a uniquely, you know, Latin America, New Mexico monster. But I don't want to do it like everyone else did. And I don't watch Supernatural, although I'm getting tempted now because it ended. Now I can watch all of it. And dang it, if they didn't have episode 1, season 1, La Llorona, and I'm all.
Don't you hate when, like, I hate and love when that happens? Like, I feel
Yeah,
like I'm on the right path, but I'm like, damn it.
Yeah,
like, I thought it was an original idea, and then
yes, like, really, out of the gate, guys, La Llorona, really, most obscure. Okay, fine, but I was like,
they get some obscure ones. I gotta tell you,
they
it's
do.
beautiful.
Yeah. I've read a lot of synopsis here lately, but, you know, so I'm like looking through. I'm like, oh, I see their treatment of it, and I'm going to do my treatment, which always was based on my problems with that myth. Like I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would that happen? It should have happened this way instead.
Yeah.
And so it just really starts with a single sentence of a concept, whether that's a narrative concept, it's a monster concept, or if it's just an interesting situation. I want to put my players in a gladiatorial arena where it's not death, but it's like the Olympics. I want to do D&D Olympics, and this is how I want to start. And so that's we'll build from there. And then like, okay, well, what are the things and what's happening in the background? Why it can't just be this? What else is going on? How can I add a layer to make this more interesting?
Yeah.
You start building it in tiers, like a house.
I like it. You know, it's funny. Everyone keeps talking about that show, and I've never seen it. There's like a lot of shows that I haven't
don't like
seen
horror.
that. Well, I do, but it just
Scary.
it's just one of those things where, you know, because I'm such a visual person, and you know, in the film industry, right, you borrow or you steal ideas from everybody, whether you want to or not. It's subconscious. You see it. You know, even like Cthulhu. We were talking about Cthulhu. My great old one looks like a better version of Cthulhu, and I've never read or seen any of the books or the movies or anything with Cthulhu. I didn't even know that lore existed. And what's the artist? Lovecraft, right?
Yeah, H.P. Lovecraft.
I didn't even know he
Lovecraft.
existed when I created my great old one.
That hurts
Well, the
my
great
soul.
old one is, I mean, that's where like that came from and all the lore and
The
everything. I mean, but
stories
the
are
fact
so
that you
good.
ran with it is.
Well, I'm diving into it now, but it's just funny because I'd never seen it.
Yeah,
And
you're
I
aware of the
created a
concept.
giant god
Right.
kraken with wings because it sounded amazing. Like,
Well,
I'm like, ooh, I'm on the right path. Like, I feel like, you know, just creating those ideas and things was
Cthulhu
a
is-
fun idea.
I don't want to nitpick, but Cthulhu is like the tiniest part of that mythos, and there's a way cooler one. I'm not being biased or
just-
anything.
I'd
It's
love
true.
to learn.
It's
I'm
true.
learning. I'm learning.
Listen, Cthulhu has a great PR department, and it's working for him.
Exactly.
And Neil Arthotep is so much better. Whatever.
So, yeah,
I love you, Taryn.
for me with story, like I know you guys have been looped into my crazy mad scientist brain, right? You're in it, you're part of it, you're living and breathing it,
I
you're
can't
terrified
get
of it.
out
and
of
frightened.
it.
Living, and
Can't
yes.
get out of it.
You can't. You guys are stuck. And in the early days when I used to create the stories, it started with, like we've talked about it, we beat it to death, GW scene, right? Episode 16 or whatever in Realm Season 1. That was the first scene that I thought of. So
Bring
because
this
I'm
up
a,
every episode.
but I'm not going to talk about it. If you want to look, you can go back and watch it. But that's how I started doing it. So that's when I first created that piece, I thought of a scene. And then for Realms 2, I did it differently. And I'm not going to tell you what I thought about, but there's a lot of things we'll find out soon. Like in the next month or so, you'll find out some of the things that I thought about, which is kind of fun. Because instead of just focusing on one moment or one character or one thing, I'm thinking about the world as a whole, as the timelines. So there are things that touch on fables and origins and tides and ashes and wizards and realms of Ukador. All the different Ukador shows I've ever done is now wrapped into Realm Season 2. So there are things that have happened in the timeline before and after, heroes and villains of Ukador as well. Like, there are things that have happened before and after that have built Realm Season 2. So now we're going to live, and that's the main, that's the main show, and all these other things were companion shows, which is what Wizards was. Wizards, the whole reason for Wizards was for what's going to happen in the next 2 episodes, right? So, like, this is why Wizards was created. However, we stumbled upon something that was amazing, right? With the story and the character and the role play. So tying in all the storylines has turned into my new thread, right? So like I think of like, okay, like Jason and I talked about a lot. So Jason is the only person that I've let create lore for Ukador. Jason's Fables of Ukador are the old folklore stories, an early First Age where all these things are talking about, and ideally we would touch on that in some of the things if the storyline of Realms gets anywhere near pre or anything like that, where some of those old folklore stories will happen, we'll kind of tie those in. So that was kind of the fun thing. So like that was the basis for Origins as well. Like I didn't want to just write down these are all the things and this is how all this stuff happened. I wanted to live it because then it became more organic. Which is why, like Wizards is like the origin story of Travanis, right? So like now we know a little bit more about Travanis, she's been in almost everything, right? She's had her fingers in a lot of things, so that kind of makes the stuff a little bit more rich, I think. We have a few questions. I'm going to get into real quick. So from Al, when the adventuring party completes the quest, do you have an epilogue set up in the event of the party wants to keep going? That's a good question.
I feel like I usually have something that they could do if they wanted to keep going. Like at the end of a campaign, I mean, usually there's something that they went by or could return to and continue the adventure.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and the other thing is like during that main campaign and stuff, like memories happen, other things happen, like interactions between players and other stuff that it may not, maybe it wasn't something you originally thought of, but like it's something like as when I DM, it's like one of those things I take note of, like, okay, they've angered this person somewhere along the way, or like there was a really neat interaction between these two people at one point. I want to see if I can actually, maybe their backgrounds are linked somehow that I hadn't thought of, or like, I mean, you have 4 to however many players, and that's a lot of backstory, and so like just because this main story is branched off, like usually what I do post like whatever the first thing I thought was, is like there's stuff in people's backstories that they want to keep exploring or they didn't get to do, and I like to go back and make sure that everybody gets to delve into some of the things that they had if they didn't.
Yeah.
There's almost always going to be like a straggling storyline somewhere that you can pull back in.
Yeah, you know, like a beloved NPC that they can go back and see, and they ended up dying.
Yeah, it's really bad.
You do not touch
It's really
him.
bad when that happens. It's
Diane.
really
Who?
bad when those
Erky?
NPCs
Don't touch Erky.
You know, I tried to kill Erky in the first campaign I ever did, and the players cried, and I brought him back. Like, the players cried. Like, real tears.
I would probably cry at this point. I don't want anything to happen to that poor sweet
Everyone loves Erky.
You know, it's
Except
kind of
for
like talking about
Ashley.
Janice. You know, like,
Oh, I know Janice is gonna die, and I'm dreading it.
you know, it's
You
one of
gave her a heart attack.
it's one of the few times that I've seen Lizzie get really irate. She's like, "Don't you fucking kill Janet!" Like, I'm like, "Whoa, Lizzie, whoa!"
Like I love
will.
Janice. I love Janice. But as a DM, I'm like, you gotta kill her.
That's
Because I
terrible.
love her. I love her, so you have to kill her.
Same.
Amazing.
That's wonderful, like D&D logic, but it's terrible life advice.
Of course. Of course. But you know you're doing a really good job as a DM is if your
Right.
players care about this pretend person so much, they're willing to sacrifice their life for like it. That's when you know your role play is on point. When your
Yeah.
players are like, "Oh, we can't let him." Like what? Like and then they cry, they have emotions about a pretend person. You're like, "Yes."
Yep, Erky's getting killed.
Oh my god.
Okay, but Rex won't care.
But Jinx will, and that'll make Rex care.
Okay, like as a DM, I love that. Rex
So,
is
yeah, we're
like
unpacking
Jinx
a
is
lot
gonna
right
hate
now.
it,
I'm
but
just
I'm
gonna
here
say
for that.
much.
You don't know when Erky will die, but he will. That's
Jason's
all
like,
I'm gonna
"Mhm,
say.
mhm." So we'll find out more about Erky later today. But Jason, did you have anything? I know
Oh,
you.
yeah,
You have a lot of really awesome things. Like your DM style is different than mine for sure. Like you have a lot of pre-written things that you really set the stage and like it kind of brings you in or brings you out after we do something, which is really fun.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like only started doing that during Fables, where there was like a little like intro piece that was like a vignette that wasn't part of the story, and then I continued doing it with Monster of the Week. But that's not my usual style. But I don't know how I kind of came to that. But you're right, it is a little bit different. But for me, I kind of take my cues from like movies and TVs, right? TV. So if you know that something you're doing is not a one shot, but has a fixed period of time, then it's like a movie where it has a long arcing beginning, middle, and end, with an ending point where the campaign finishes.
Yeah.
And just like with the movie, there's always a couple little threads in there where you can make a sequel. Hopefully it's a good sequel, not like, you know, Bad Boys 2 or something, where it's just like, why did you do this? But when it's a long going campaign, you know, that has no fixed end point, then it's more like television. And so you get to the season finale of a show and they're gearing up to take down the organization they've been fighting against the whole time, and the CEO who's actually a demon, and, you know, the whole thing. And it never just ends with that. That happens, and then they discover that they're twin brother that they thought was dead has been locked in the vault. And that's the thing that the CEO's had this whole time. And you're like, Chuck? You know, and that's where it ends. And then you go into the next part, because every ending point is actually just the jumping off of something else, where you get to shift the camera, shift perspective, shift what they think has been happening the whole time. And so there's always a way to do more, but it really just has to do with what was it intended to be in the first place, right? So like with Fables, I had that a very clear ending, right? My home games, I think of it in seasons, right? Like Chris, I think you do that too, where I know what the big idea is in season 1 and what the big idea is in season 2 and how they connect and why they connect. But for other things, it's just, you know, it has boundaries, right? You're muted.
You're
Bro.
muted.
No, I just whispered. I was like,
I
love it.
muted. Yeah, because there was someone, they're vacuuming or something, and it was super annoying.
Yeah, I wonder what that was.
It was like, anyway. I don't remember what the question was. I was so distracted by that.
Keep going after a campaign's over.
Oh, yes. So, you know, it's funny because we've been planning and talking about a Realms reboot. Because my Kavak's Bag of Fate, which I need to talk to you, Jason, about cards, because my card vendor has... I might have lost lots of money because they just took it and run, I think. So that's a whole different story. But so with Realms, they got the deck, Kavak's Deck of Fate, which is essentially my version of a Deck of Many Things, which is a little less game breaking and more quest creating, because we have a show, right? We can't have like some of the terrible things happen because then the show's over. Hey, we're done. Or we do some side quests. Everyone's coming back from hell, which is kind of fun, but whatever. But Torque still has a card, so there's still an NPC that has a vendetta against him and is going to try to kill him. And I think there was another card. So like, and there's a couple other side things that they want to do. And with, you know, Victor still being alive, there was something that Lizzie had done where she did like a narrative, and some of the players kind of wanted to live that out. So I'm always up for that. And, you know, we talked about doing some stuff for Origins, because like Origins... that season ended and like some of the main cast kind of moved on, but we have a lot of other people that want to jump on and do things. So we've talked about doing some of those, which would be fun. And that was kind of the idea, and that's my DM style. Is like I've created the world, so we can do whatever we want. Like the stories there's all sorts of stories and lore and things that could happen, and I'm excited for Wizards too, because like when Wizards is over, or even like later on, like there's branch off quests that you guys can do that are kind of like continuing your own individual story within this umbrella, which is kind of fun. But so we do have a couple questions that kind of go side and side, so I'll read both of them and we'll talk about it. What music do you listen to when you're writing to get in the groove? And then what inspiration comes in many forms. Do you find it in other things, music, movies, and books? So we can kind of talk about like what gets you in the mood, and then what inspires you to create these things.
In the mood.
Well,
I wonder who was going to let that go, not let that go.
Well, it was either me and Taryn.
I alley-ooped it. I was waiting for someone to do it.
Taryn was just smiling, so I went for it.
I'm proud. I'll start that one. So,
Okay.
yeah, why not? So, like I said, it's artwork a lot of the time for me. Artwork is a really big deal. That's where a lot of my inspiration comes from, just because I'm a very visual person. And so, like, when I much like Solo, when I'm thinking of a scene or a season, I have a visual in my head of, like, in-game, what it would look like. Like, not just, like, my players sitting there, but, like, what the world looks like, what the characters, what these encounters look like, and all of that. So, like, that's where a lot of that comes from. And obviously, I mean, movies... TV shows, books, all of that feeds into it. So like, yeah, definitely pulling inspiration from things I love. I love Lovecrafty and stuff. Lovecraft himself was a dirtbag. Yeah. But he created something that's really cool, and I like to use it for inspo and make it better. And when I am writing, because a lot of my campaigns are goth.
And welcome back. Congratulations, Jeff. You won the mid-show giveaway. Picking up where we left off. Sorry about the tech issues. Internet is silly. But Taryn, you were saying something.
I'm going to say it again. Screw Lovecraft. He was a bad person. Anyways, I love the work, and I love pulling information and stuff from it because I like to make it scarier and worse. In fact, there's something I'm working on that is a big pull from Eldritch horror, and I love it, and it's my baby. But all of my settings are goth and steampunk and Eldritch inspired. A lot of the times that wasn't what I set out to do when I first started. I thought, I'm going to make fantasy, and that just wasn't my forte. So when I'm writing for a campaign, I listen to darker... I usually listen to like instrumental stuff because words tend to distract me because I'm distractible. The album I've been listening to lately doing my writing is called Darkness Eternal from Adrian von Ziegler. And I'll just put it on loop, and it's very cinematic music because that helps me visualize a scene. And so yeah, that's what I do.
I like it. Anybody else?
Similar. It's based on for music, it's based on like where in the world this location is based off of, and then the theme. So similar to Taryn, like I always try to do just normal fantasy writing, and then it always gets dark. I think you guys can tell that from Legends.
No, not at all.
But yeah, a lot of like movie soundtracks, a lot of like Old Norse music, like Wardruna or Danheim or Heilung or bands like that. So it's a lot of like deep drums or weird Norse, and it works because like my world's based off of like Iceland and stuff like that. So also Nox Arcana is his stuff is like really gothic and dark and cool, and I like it a lot. Midnight Syndicate is some more gothic greatness. As far as what else inspires me besides music, the world. Whenever I travel, I'm inspired. So, I was inspired when I went to New Zealand. I was inspired, obviously, when I went to Iceland. That's what Shawgal is heavily influenced on. Also, like Taryn, just looking at a picture that is creepy or whatever is super inspiring to me. Or just creepy stories. Yeah. I love reading creepypasta on Reddit. So, yeah. That's my answer.
No, and I'm gonna be like, yeah, all my games are based on the subreddit "I don't work here, lady," no, which I highly recommend. But so I'm a little bit different. Like I use music to like get stuff done as well. I am pretty ADD as well, and just with ADD, as I'm sure you guys know, it oscillates between extreme focus, unbreakable focus, and I can't get anything done. And music helps move that forward. Yeah. And when I am like writing, I either need to listen to stuff where I know it so well that I don't have to think about the words, or stuff without words. And so a lot of it is just like pump up jams. I love like a lot of different stuff.
I'm not picturing you like at the desk, just like crumping.
Yeah, that video. That video will never hit the internet. I don't care how many likes I'll get. But like no, like I mean, but no, it's like stupid stuff. It's like AJR and fun and stuff and like NF and. But where it's just a good beat and is moving forward, where I don't think cinematically like that, like how you guys are saying. I don't like put on like the Lord of the Rings soundtrack and then go, oh yes, they're going on it. I don't work that way.
Going on an adventure.
Yes,
I'm taking the hobbits to Isengard.
Yeah, I'm taking the hobbits to.
I ran down that road in Hobbiton and was like, I'm going on an adventure. It was awesome.
But for me, like it is about like pictures, like what you guys were saying, like either the picture in my head or a picture I've seen on like ArtStation or DeviantArt or something where it's like, okay, that's a cool, like they've captured a moment in time that implies something just before it and something after it, and that's what makes a great picture. But also it's pregnant with possibility, and I'm like, yeah, that's good. And so that shows up in my game hooks, and it shows up in my stories as well. Other things for inspiration too is sometimes I can solve problems by looking at maps. And so if there's an established map for your world, you can just look at it and go, like, I've had a couple times where I'm like, well, I kind of want there to be like a nautical thing in this next episode, so where does that go? And then looking at a map of Faerun and going, oh, there's a really big swamp not too far from here. Let's do that.
Yep.
And twist it a little bit so it's not like, sharks and sailing ships, but it's like small skiffs and creepy tentacles from the dark water and hags. And I'm like, okay, still the same vibe. We can roll with this. And because with Duke City Chronicles, it's in Albuquerque.
Yeah.
In fact, for this next episode, I was actually literally like, I kind of know what I'm going to do, but I still have a couple little fiddly bits I need to fix. There,
Yes.
Riley. And literally just looking at a map today, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I know how that's going to work. Because there's 2 points on a real map, and there's a thing in between them, and I'm like, that's a great location. That's what's happening now.
Wow, I can't believe you brought that into your natural speech, Jason.
It makes me
I'm
so
not
happy.
saying it wasn't already there. I'm just saying
Okay,
I chose to
okay.
let it
That's
out
true.
now.
That's true.
Yeah.
Makes me so happy.
Glad I could help you out. But yeah, so inspiration comes from everywhere, but so a lot of like my writing, like I don't actually write down a lot of stuff. Like
Me too.
my intros, outros, I write those, but that's it. Everything else is just like 5 words on a notepad, and that's it.
Yeah.
And people are like, I have friends who are like, Cameron's like, that's it? That's all you wrote? I'm like, yeah, that's all I wrote. And they're like, what? But why though? Like, how did you? And I'm like, that's just how it is for me. I just need like mnemonic triggers where it's like at one word and then all the other stuff pops up.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it's like driving around and doing other work, and I'm just like, oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, I'll do that. And just kind of slowly collecting ideas all over the place as you go, and just jotting them down. And so that's kind of how music takes place for the motivation, and then inspiration is just kind of everywhere.
I like it.
Inspiration is just everywhere.
Yeah,
true.
I listen to so many different things, and it really just depends on what I'm doing. I mean, I'm like Taryn, where the visual things inspire you when you kind of go. I mean, but when I'm really nose to the grindstone about just creating things, it's usually something that's like intense, like techno, or something that's not super vocals, where it's just like hard rock, or something that just gets me like
That
just the
motivation,
adrenaline going. Yeah. But I've also been known to listen to Sinatra and do stuff. So like the range is crazy. But yeah, I love listening to how everybody else like finds these things and finds like their motivations and drives and things. It's really fun to hear that.
Yeah. And sometimes too, just to piggyback on this as a final thought, is I like to think about the emotion of it, like what I want them to feel, like what are they supposed to feel during this, and what should they feel after this, like and it's not just like threat or being afraid, but do they want to feel like hopefully defiant? Do they want to feel melancholy joy? Like what's the kind of the underlying like bed emotion here in these things? And like I remember a scene at the end of Fables where Chris, you and Josh, you guys killed the character that killed your character's mom. Yeah. And it was a hollow victory, and it was just like that's just it. And that's what I wanted for you guys, because there was so much rage and so much quite literally and impetus to get that done. It was just like, yeah, but now what though? Like that revenge never has a successful end. It never does. Like, I mean, you read like the ultimate revenge story, Count of Monte Cristo, and it kind of sucks. Like, you're like, yeah, you did this, you got back at everybody, but now what, bro? Like, okay,
yeah,
and now you're just a rich, angry guy who has nothing you can do to fix the hole in your heart. So yeah, so the emotion of it is kind of there too.
To go off of what Jason just said, I have a one shot that is based in the Ashengate Asylum that you've kind of got a peek into for the Fabled Femmes one shots for Ukador Con.
Yeah.
But I have one that's like chess based in the asylum when it's kind of operating, and I have a playlist that I feel like I spent 2 weeks curating this playlist, and it goes from very low and sad and just like heartbreaking music, and then gradually increases as the playlist goes on until it's just like super intense and like you're fighting the big bads, you're getting jump scares. So yeah, that just reminded me of it, and you can find it on my Spotify.
It's terrible.
I love that.
Terrible and amazing all at the same time.
Yes.
Okay, so this is from Al. I'm assuming this is for Dianne, specifically about stories. We'll see where you go with this. Will the party come across an NPC with a broke knee in Shallow Gulf?
Is it because I broke my knee
I'm assuming
while
so.
writing the world lore?
Yeah.
Ooh, should I make myself a really badass, like, retired adventurer NPC?
You can also be brought in as a dead person in a car in certain campaigns.
Sure. I haven't thought about it, Al, but honestly, I should. And maybe they will.
I have a name for that character.
Yeah?
Patella. Anatomy, you guys, it's a thing.
It's the most pressing question of the whole show.
Yeah.
I hate it, and I love it.
Wow.
I hate
Oh.
it, and I love it.
Yeah, I had an NPC once that was a retired adventurer, and he had like a gnomish knee brace that was like a rack and pinion, like clink, 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 clink.
Yeah, that
clink,
could
clink,
totally be a thing because the gnomes are like very tech forward in my
clink. Mhm.
world.
Yeah, he was a halfling, but gnomes built
So-
it, and it was kind of fun.
Yeah. This NPC is obviously gonna be super cool.
I mean, seeming question.
Yeah. Patella, the coolest.
Wow. There was another good question here somewhere. Hang on. Oh yeah. So, how often? Oh wait. No, I posted a really good one.
You did?
Yeah, you did.
Yep.
Backtrack.
Oh wait. You're very blurred.
I am.
Oh, that you're good.
Okay. Where's the thing? Too many awesome things. All right. This was from Randy, right? As someone that is going to attempt to DM for the first time, how do you make the rest of the party feel included when the story is currently on someone else's story arc? Well, my 2 cents is you talk with your players, and you get your players to start help with the role play. So like GW used to be really, really good at this in Realm Season 1, is he would include them into his backstory. So he would talk to people, he would start conversations to be like, hey, do you have any siblings? Oh yeah, that's really awesome. I have some siblings too. So then he would start to bring his storyline, his backstory into the character, so then they feel like they have something invested in it. But something else is you give your players something to be invested in that storyline, whether it be an NPC or the same person. Like Victor, for example. Victor was a thread that lined everyone as the party together, because it was Victor's thing was, yes, he was attacking a city and he was attacking GW's NPC sister, but it was also messing with the rest of the world that the players had invested on. Now, this was a party that was more than halfway through their campaign, so they've been around a lot of NPCs. But in the beginning, it was a little challenging to get them to have that thread. And I kind of talked to people about this before, where I imagine every single one of my players is a piece of rope tied to the wall. And I grab all 5 of those pieces of rope and I walk to the other side of the room and I start twisting. So at what point do those 5 pieces of rope become one piece of rope? So that was the thread, which was Jaren, and they, it was a fun thing with Realms because all 5 of my players had, 4 at first and then it became 5, but so all 4 of those players had their own personal backstories that were not connected, or so they thought. So they were all actually connected to the big bad, Jaren, and they found that out right before they fought him, which made them even more invested in that moment, which was kind of fun. But I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say too.
There's a lot going on in that question because,
Yeah.
I mean, the way he phrases it, and now, there it is. He phrases it is that attempting to be a DM for the first time, but when the story is currently on someone else's story arc. So that indicates like there's an ongoing campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to jump into the DM seat. Is it the way I read that? I mean, and my answer doesn't hinge on that, but that there's different skills when you are jumping into an ongoing campaign to become the DM for the first time, or doing like a round robin kind of thing, or starting your own, campaign, and you really want to focus on one character.
Yeah.
But one of the best things is, because what this boils down to is, how do you get player investment, character investment into your story. So there's a really good tool that I've used many times that's really helped out, called the 3 questions. And it's 3 questions you give your party members that they can answer and then give back to the DM that gives you fuel to hurt them. I mean, to tell the story. And and so the 3 questions is what's your secret purpose for joining the party? Who have you wronged? And what would you kill to know?
And do you have any family members?
Mm-hmm. And
We always want a family tree.
That's good.
Yeah. Of living and deceased, because you can do stuff with deceased people as well.
Oh, yeah.
Hashtag nepotism.
Now I learned that ain't what that word means. But yeah, I mean, by the way, it'd be really funny to have an adventurer who's like the whole family's alive and they, they're cobblers.
All happy?
And they're all happy and just like there's no dark edgelord past. It's just
It's kind of like Kiwin's.
Yeah.
Like she has dead family members, but like her brother went missing. But besides that, like she had a happy mother, father, grandmother, uncles, aunts, cousins.
Leo.
As far as I know, they're alive at least. I haven't talked to them
He's
in a
like, I
while.
wouldn't really bank on that.
I am making the mom face at Solo right now.
I'm not doing anything. I'm
Good
just
luck.
trying not to laugh at the mom face.
Like Leo's like that. He's got 6 other siblings, a mom and dad. They're all alive, and he's the only one off doing weird stuff. Like
When you say they're all alive, you make assumptions. Anyways.
now, I'm gonna give you the dead face.
I have killed a lot of dwarves in that campaign.
If you give me family members in one of my campaigns, I'm going to
my
use them to
God.
hurt you.
But yeah, I mean,
Or,
that's a good
the
case. 'Cause-
sometimes the family member is actually hurting you.
Well,
Yes,
actively.
I'm not going to talk about it. And again, we talk about it all the time. But Jadobi's family was the same thing. His elven side and his human side, they were amazing. And he was rich. He's like, I don't want to be rich anymore. I'm just going to be a druid. And I'm like, way to give me a lot to go off of. But then that's why I looped his character, which gave him his character arc, which was a very beautiful, long character arc. Yeah.
Well, and that honestly though, kind of piggybacking off that real quick though, because I've had player-heavy story arcs where, we literally go to somebody's hometown and we're clearly getting through some of the meat and potatoes of their backstory.
Yeah.
Keeping people invested is have them go through something together that is associated with this person's backstory. What's going on, but while they're going through that, have the party be part of it. So it's not just, well, I've heard about you having this problem, but now you're in the middle of it too, whether you want to or not, or whether whatever. We've experienced this together, and it's creating an emotional bonding moment. Like maybe you help through this tiny quest, somebody's being attacked, blah blah whatever.
Yeah.
Well, now the party's gone through something together, and they can see how this has affected that character. And I mean, unless depending on the character type, maybe they're invested in this person now because it's like, wow, or they relate. Like that's one thing I've done for sure is go something similar has happened to somebody in the party back in the day and it didn't go so well, and so now this character empathizes because it's like, yeah, I know exactly what you're going through, and that forces them to open up and some other things. I like to tug on the heartstrings, make people care.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the person's story arc, you can always start threading other people's story arcs into that'll pick up after that story arc has concluded as well. So it might be a part of it, like Solo said, make everyone's story arcs kind of connect in some way, whether that's through a big bad or an NPC that happens to know all of them from different ways or what have you.
Well, and they don't always have to know that their stories are. That's something too. Is they
Oh,
find
of
out
course. Yeah.
oh crap, we're after the same person.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, you mean because it's like bad guys use false identities sometimes or something?
Sure.
I'd love to revisit this at the end of February. For no reason at
I
all.
hate you.
There was another really good question. Hang on, I'm going to find it. So, Mr. Yana, my friend asked me to join her campaign and her friends in her D&D session. I'm a big D&D fan, but never actually played myself. I'm quite the introvert with new unknown people. Do you have any advice on which kind of character I could play that I don't have to need to or want to talk RP as much? I'm a tall guy with a deep voice in real life, barbarian. Not sure why I wrote that.
No.
Oh, I'm literally Ron
I'm gonna
Burgundy.
go
I
ahead
will
and
read whatever you
veto.
say.
I'm gonna veto the barbarian.
Sure. So first off, that's not the
Aaron
topic we're
veto.
talking about today, but I will 100% put a pin in what we are talking about to talk about a new D&D player every time.
Yes.
So what is your suggestion, Miss Taryn?
Well, in that situation, I like you ask the edgelord first. It's a shocker, but honestly, playing somebody with like a stoic past, like that's always the thing to
Rogue.
do. Is
Mhm.
rogue is a thing. Somebody that like, it's not so much like a what character wouldn't talk so much. It's why wouldn't this character talk, and that can be. I mean, that can be fun things. It can be actually like they are this big hulking barbarian, but they're actually really secretly shy, and it's just that. They have a bad temper, but they're really shy about it. That's a fun character to play if you're kind of have a comedic tint to it. So then you're this big intimidating person, but actually like there's some fun duality there. But playing like the roguish character that's like, I don't really open up to people just on the flip of it, like the turn of the dime or whatever. It's like, no, it takes time. And why is it that you don't want to open up? And like a lot of my players are introverts. And so I've had them play characters that are like, I'm just like, play you.
Yeah.
You know, if
exactly.
you are shy, that's okay. Your character can
Play
be
yourself.
shy.
Yep.
It's not like you have to have a crazy ulterior motive. It's fun to play with when you're working on your backstory. But just be you. And as you warm up to other players, so will your character. And then it's a natural progression, because I've had those players that like sat there the whole time, like just afraid to jump in, now are like at the table ready to go because they are not only comfortable in character but with the people around them.
Took the words right out of my mouth, Taryn.
Absolutely.
So there's two thoughts with this. Is one is you can, if you want to protect yourself and you want to make sure that you don't put yourself in a situation that's going to require you to do a lot of role play or talk a lot, you're right. There's story mechanic and rule mechanics that you can lean on to help do that. A fun option that I just thought of is, do you guys know what the Wu Jin are? Like, this is like old school D&D stuff.
That sounds
They're
really
basi-
familiar.
I've heard of them.
They're basically like spellcasters and monks
Mhm.
from like the Orient, but Faerun's version of the Orient. And they come with a bunch of like taboos, things they will never ever do. So like the monks would have this, some of the spellcasters would have this, where like they never wear yellow, ever. Right?
Yeah.
They can't go to sleep until they count 25 things, right?
They have OCD.
And so you
Love it.
could literally make yourself a monk or a spellcaster or someone with an exotic background and just be like, because of my monastic order, I can't say more than 25 words a day. Right? And so not counting spellcasting. And you could do that and make that a fun challenge. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or
Um,
counting.
yeah.
Or,
spellcasting.
oh gosh, yeah, casting the sending spell once and you're done. What they say, tell you tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah.
So you could do that. But the other thing is, if you don't want to use the game to protect yourself, you could use the game to put yourself out there, to project yourself.
Yeah.
And you have to realize that this is not real life. And this is most likely, not always, most likely a safe place to explore an aspect of your personality that you don't often get to explore, or an aspect that you wish was part of your personality, right? If you want to be boisterous and you always talk first and say the dumb thing, like every anime has that one character where they're like, all right, let's go, and you're like, shh, just stop, you know. I can think several, and where just be that person and see what it feels like, because you only have to do it for a few hours once a week, and these people know that that's not you, and they're not going to like hate you, and just see what that feels like, and use this opportunity to push yourself instead of protect yourself, project yourself. So there's two options there.
I love it. So I had to stand up because I get really excited about this stuff. So first off, thank you so much for asking that question. You asking that question is the first step, right? This community at Fable 42, we are inclusive. We're all about you playing D&D, because if we're not inclusive, then you don't get to play with us, right? So what I do for a living, besides doing this stuff with Fable 42, is I DM veterans. I'm a 12-year combat vet myself. I DM for veterans from Wounded Warrior Project who have PTSD, social anxiety, and other things. I have Asperger's. I am an introvert, believe it or not, guys. Like, if I'm in public with real people, I am terrified. I can pretend because I put on a face, right? So D&D is used to help you become social. It teaches you how to be all the things that you want to be, and it gets you through all of those barriers. And I am happy to talk to you offline or online or what have you to help navigate those things. The first thing that I would suggest is, if this is your friend, tell your friend who's DMing what your fears are. Tell her. She will help you. And if she doesn't, she's not a good friend. I'm kidding. She might need help with DMing. But a DM is their job as a DM is to protect your players, is communicate with your players. So you want to talk to them. They talk to you. They make sure that, okay, he's not comfortable. We'll help bring him in. I have DM'd guys, 6'6" military grunts who literally just swear all the time, play Call of Duty, who play D&D. And it's like, I'm not going to role play. It's stupid. That's lame. And they use a bunch of derogatory terms we won't repeat right here. And they're playing a gnome. And I guarantee you, 2 hours in, that 6-foot guy is standing at the top. He's like, I'm a gnome and I'm shooting a fireball. Whoa! And he's like, oh, what'd I just do? And then everyone's like, yeah! And everyone's into it. And then he realizes he just popped out of his bubble. And it's a beautiful moment to watch that happen. But you don't have to do that. You can just grunt. You can be a paladin. You can be a monk. You can be a barbarian. But,
you can be a Kenku.
I was going to say that. Kenku. All you do is repeat. Kenku is a bird race. All you do is repeat. So someone says something stupid like, oh, you're an idiot. And then you're just like, anytime that people say something, you're an idiot. And that's a comedic beat, which everyone laughs because every time you do it, people laugh. Every time. It doesn't matter what it is.
Or just
speaking echolalia. Yeah.
Or just repeat the last couple of words. Like, let's go see your mom. Your mom.
Your mom.
Your mom. And that's it. You can literally just say those 2 words the entire campaign, and everyone will love you for it. And it's silly.
Everyone will love you.
Don't pick something like Bard, because that's not a race. I mean, you don't have to be a singer or whatever, but it's just a race that makes, or the class that just makes you want to do it, right? So like, you just pick something simple that you can learn how to play the game and like be yourself. And that's one of the things I teach when I talk to people about role playing is just be yourself. They're like, well, I don't know how to improv. And I think I might have been telling some of you guys this story before. I would talk to people when I would teach improv classes, like, well, I don't know how to improv. Really? And I throw my shoe at them. So they either catch it, they get hit by it, or they dodge it. I'm like, that's improv. If you get hit by it, well, then maybe you're not good at improv. Because this is real life, right? Because you adapt to what happens. I've had to change what I throw at people when I do this. But it's just one of those things, right? So like you improv every day, right? The bus doesn't make it there, and like, oh, I don't make it there. So what do? Some random person comes up and talks to you. You talk to them. That's improv. That's all improv is, and that's what D&D is. It's improv.
You duck down the other alleyway. You're just like.
There was one guy who I literally hurled the shoe at him, and he caught it. He was like, oh. I'm like, you're gonna play a monk. But it's just about being yourself. The game is about just having fun and just doing, like Jason said, like doing the things that you've never done before. And you can see I get excited about this stuff because I love this stuff. Like, I love it. It really heals all the things that you are not great at. And again, some of these people have met me in person, some of them haven't. I haven't met these 3 amazing people in person yet, but other people who I have, I'm not, unless I'm talking about D&D, I don't want to talk to you. But, it's D&D has helped that. And that was a really long tangent to your question, but welcome to the family, because D&D will change your life. Chris Solo, 2024. Do we have any other questions? Because I went on a squirrel.
You've gotten excited.
I got excited, guys. This is what I love doing. So we have 12 minutes left. If you guys, anybody else has any other questions, no, Jeff, there isn't anything I haven't done. I am literally a jack of all trades, master of everything.
Are you sure?
I've done a lot of things. Yeah, we can go over the list later.
You have to be careful with phrasing with me and Diane in the.
Yeah.
I stand by I stand by my statement with you 2 here. Go ahead and unpack that.
I wish you would retract that. But it's great. We love D&D and it changes your life and everything's awesome.
So,
I love Kenkus because of Echolalia. Do it.
Speaking.
I'm playing a Kenku for the game
Oh my God, yes.
Are you really?
Yeah.
As
an
evil paladin Kenku.
You're all gonna die.
I'm so
You're all gonna
excited.
So Lizzie put out a question. Speaking of communicating with players, what is your method for figuring out arcs for different characters, melding their ideas and your ideas? I love that she's asking this question.
Yep.
And playing with their expectations.
Solo.
I mean, I can do this. After. You want me to start? I can
Yep.
start. So, listen, right? So my directing style, when I've directed actors in feature films, music videos, doesn't matter. I don't just hand my actors a script. I don't. I don't hand them like, this is the character you're playing. Go for it. I say, these are the beats that you need to hit. Let's build this character together. Why do I do that? I do that because then they feel like it's part of them. And I've gotten the best performances from all of the actors I've directed by doing this. By having, sure, there's a few staples, like you have to do this and you have to kind of feel this and this is something that's going to come up later, whatever, but everything else is them. So you let your players and your characters like just help build it. And you listen to what they have to say. And you're like, okay, cool. And you can add a couple things and you add a couple things. Lizzie and I went back and forth for a hot minute about the Life Forge. Now, Life Forge essentially is just a glorified Warforge, but it's more than that because we used real races and characters and we created her multiple personality, which was a very complex thing to do with our thing. And just be flexible because there's nothing. If we do a show and sure I do something or I say something becomes canon, sure. I've retroactively changed things before in the past. We've tweaked a few things with Lizzie's character because it was a little overpowered and we like dialed back some of the stats and things and just being upfront like, okay, cool. This is your story, this is your thing, but communicate. So like there's so many times where I'm about to do something terrible. Sometimes I say it before and sometimes I don't because it's really hard as a storyteller as well to hit that story beat, but you have to remember that story beat is not important, more important than that player. I've crossed the line a few times, I've treaded the line a few times, but usually if you're gonna cross the line, you give them a heads up like, hey, you know this really cool person you like in your family? I'm gonna kill them. Yes, they may not have the same reaction they have on camera, but it's like GW didn't talk to me for 2 weeks. Not to keep talking about that same thing. He didn't talk to me for 2 weeks because I murdered his NPC sister. I get it, but I wanted that authentic reaction. So like but your players trust you as a DM, and you have to trust your players. So like you have to make that call. Like if you're questioning like should I tell them or not, you tell them. If you're like, I think this will be okay, then go for it. And if they say, hey, that wasn't cool, the next time, you tell them, right? So you have to communicate. I'm not really going to kill Kiwin's family. And if I was, or Leo's family, because we've never gone down that route with either one of these players, I would be like, hey, what's off limits in the future?
Don't tell me.
But I would ask a general question.
But that's a player choice. So,
You could tell me,
that's
you could tell me and
moment.
I find a way to make it worse. Like, I want to kill Leo's family. Okay, here's what you should do. You should make them all vampires. They live underground.
There you go.
But here's the thing is like with that though, there was the like reach out to the player of, do you want to know? What is your limit? And like that's something like I'd like just a quick piggyback because I mean like that's the response is like one of the things that I've learned in this community. Like just a quick like love spew for Fabled. I love that we're a learning community. I love that we're an accepting community. We don't jump down people's throats when they make mistakes. We just say, hey man, next time let's do this. Let's be better. So we have that room to learn and expand and to grow. And like, that's even something like I am learning and I am like grabbing onto is like, not just communication, but is it okay? That like question for consent, like consent. It's a thing of like, hey, I know that you're really attached to this character or whatever. Would it bother you? I mean, even it, and depending on the situation, like having to ask, is it okay if this like something bad? You don't have to go like super in detail. And that's just something I'm learning, even both as a player and a DM, is making sure like, because I use a lot of tragedy in my stuff, and one of the things for me is both as a player and a DM. Like as a DM, like my instinct is yes, ask. As a player, like that's not always a thing. Like I haven't bridge that gap there, and I'm getting there.
And you could be, like you said, you can be careful enough and vague enough. Like we can say, so you have your session 0, you have your 17 session zeros, doesn't matter how many, Be like, hey, Diane, I have your list of NPC family members. I have all these things. Again, I ask the same questions every time. I may not even touch your family, right? But like, are there any limitations in the game, right? Are there any things you don't want, right? Do you want me to never kill a dog because your dog just died? I will never kill. I will try to remember to never kill a dog, right?
You can't kill tabaxis because they're fluffy and white like my cat.
Okay, well then don't play in Realms because there are skin tabaxis that they wear as fur.
Well, I just mean Jeff is a fluffy white tabaxi in the thing.
Oh, Jeff's totally dying. What are you talking about? Sorry, Jeff. No, Jeff's gonna be the winner. Watch, I'm gonna school all of you. But that's the thing. It's just you just communicate, right? And you just express, like, what are the boundaries, right? Like, am I allowed to use your backstory against you? The answer should always be yes, because you wouldn't create the backstory if I couldn't use it against you. That's the whole reason for a backstory. Not necessarily against you, but use it and thread it into the storyline. But
yeah. I think sometimes we get so fixated with surprise and fixated with getting genuine reactions from people that we sometimes don't communicate when we should communicate. Because all this comes down to communication, whether it's before the game starts with session 0, talking backstory, boundaries, what are you not really okay with, like, oh yeah, my character, I don't really want to do romantic stuff. I just, it's weird to look at the DM and say, kiss me. I don't want to do that. But also I don't know why that was my example.
I just remember because back when I used to play with GW in the same room and he would drink tea, I would literally look at him. And I would narrate the scene, and he'd be like, "I'm not," and he would try to RP, and he would like look over here. He's like, "I can't look at you while we're pretending to make out solo." I'm like, "Why not, GW?" But anyway, sorry.
Exactly. But also during the game as well. And so if you have this wild idea, it is okay before the game, like the week prior, to go to them and say, "Hey, listen, I've got this idea for your character, and it's going to be really bad for a while, and you might like kind of die for a little while, but it'll get better. Is that okay?"
Yeah.
They're like, yeah.
Yes.
Like, listen, it'll be a great story, but if you die, please don't rip your sheet or delete your character from DB. Yeah. Like, just trust me, it's going to be cool, and it's going to be, you're going to just like be rad at the end. Okay, you good with that? They're like, yeah, I'm okay with that. Okay, cool. You don't have a fear of leeches or anything? Cool. Okay. And then so it's okay to do that because now you haven't spoiled anything, but now they're even more hyped for the game because they're like, what's going to happen? Like, and when they see it happen, they see that moment, they're like, oh, this is that moment. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go in there and just be reckless and I'm going to get stabbed. Yeah. So it really does come to communication. Don't be precious with your secrets for the sake of shock and awe and honest reaction. Temper that sometimes because sometimes play with your players and trust that they have good RP value. They can make up stuff and it'll be okay.
I really want to. I want to look back in like a month and see what people say.
Yep. Well, really, and like honestly, like if the characters are invested, like and the players are invested, like even if they kind of know something's happening, when it happens, it's still.
I mean, it's a fine line, right? Alfred Hitchcock, as crazy as that dude was. I don't know if you guys know, but the home chick from The Bird, she's terrified of real birds. And she's like, Alfred, are we going to use birds? He's like, no, absolutely not. Lying through his teeth. So when she's attacked by real birds, she gives a real reaction, right? And homegirl who was in the shower, he showed how to do the scene and literally almost stabbed her to death to get the reaction. DiCaprio won an Oscar and hates the entire process all the way up to that with The Revenant because the director pushed them through it. And there are lines that are crossed. But if you have that trust and you have that communication, then you can get to those thresholds. Because another example is when I almost TPK'd, completely controlled TPK when Vulrock almost killed the entire party of Realms, except for GW had 10 hit points left. Everyone was dead. GW was going to do this big ceremony, reach out to the god, and bring everyone back. Anne sent GW and then me a message during that week saying, Denahi's not going to come back. And we're like, fuck. Because, like, she said, like, if she would die and she would see her brother, she wouldn't come back. And that's a totally true character story, and there's a lot of things in her life going on. I'm like, okay, cool. We didn't tell the rest of the party. We talked about it a lot. So we lied to the party. Everyone thought Anne was coming. So we went through all the role play of all the players coming back, and they went to Anne, and Anne didn't come back. And Eric and Logan and Lizzie lost it. And after the fact, I touched base, and I'm like, I'm sorry. but all three of us felt like this would be the best, and they agreed with it. But that was a very touchy moment, right? Because you're again, it's communication and trust. So the players trust you, and you trust them, and you have that conversation, that cohesion, which works. But if you don't have that and you do that, then things tend to fall apart. So it's, yeah, there was a, yeah. But, great questions, guys. I'm so excited.
Well, I was gonna say,
damn it, I'm not playing today.
I was gonna say, Diane, do what you want.
Oh my God.
And I will.
So,
I don't think she needs your permission.
Oh, these are happening.
okay.
Taryn.
And
These
on
are
that
happening
note, but again,
tonight.
the last thing that I want to leave to all of the new DMs and players out there in the world, you don't have to do this, but this is what I do and it works. You create the world as a DM. It's their story. It's the player's story. It's the player's characters. At the end of the day, do what works for them, not for you. And that's my way to do it. You don't have to do it that way. Your players might like playing in your story and your things, and that's fine. But I've just seen that if it's theirs, they always have better ideas than you do. I'm sorry. They do. They give you ideas in the moment. You're like, ooh. April is always writing down. I'm like, what is she doing right now? Like, I'm freaking out. And then she says something, like, ooh, that's good. And I write it down. So, like, there's always things. Like, you just trust your players. Your players
There's
are
more
amazing.
of them than you.
There is more of them. But that's the thing, is I'm losing my voice because I'm so excited. That's the thing, is if it's our story, that's 6 heads, that's 5 heads, that's 7 heads, depending on how many people are in there that are creating the story together. It will always be better than just your story. So if they feel that invested and that trusted in you and in their characters and their backstories, woo, you're going to tell a good story. I'm amped, and I can't do anything about it. I don't know what I'm supposed to do now because
There's a battle cam. He's just gonna have him like bouncing everywhere. So happy, like.
But
All of a sudden, we
yes.
need someone to guest on Realms tonight, or on Shawgal tonight.
Can I play what's his face? No.
Can he be Erky?
That's what I was just gonna say. Erky.
You want to be Erky? Yeah, you can be Erky, but you have to be super positive, and blind.
Oh, I don't know if I can do that. We're past time. We're past time. Final checks. Diane, where everybody find you?
Here in 30 minutes.
Legends of Shao-Gal.
Also,
episode
the Pretty DM online, and that's it.
Taryn.
Catch me at Valrook, VALROUK, on the Instagram and World of Warcraft. And again, 30 minutes playing Jinx, they shift our monk.
Love it. And Mr. Jason.
And you can find me at Critical Dice on Instagram and tragically on TikTok. And you can see more of the stuff that I do at thecriticaldice.com. And
Amazing.
Duke City Chronicles here next month.
Yes. And I am DM Chris Solo. You can find me at DM Chris Solo on all social medias or Fable42 because this is my life and you're my family. Go ahead and enter consent in the chat to enter our mid-show giveaway because that was the theme of the end of this thing.
You have our permission.
And in 30 minutes, we're going to get into the next episode of The Legends of Shao-Gal. So for those of you who are new, I'm going to go ahead and stop the stream and start it back up for Legends of Shao-Gal. And we will see you guys soon. This is Quests and Answers, where we go on the quest to find your answers. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.